Man, I haven't done a video like this where I am dead tired in a hot minute. And I mean like a hot minute, like it's been a few months since I was like this tired while making videos. So we'll see if this ends up going well. Um, please respond to the community post where I ask like what do you want me to do for like Trench Crusade videos. Even if like I don't know, even if you don't want to watch them, just see like hey, anything you think might be cool, maybe you can grab your attention or something to that effect, I don't know. Uh, what else do I gotta do for like the preamble stuff? Like I said, I'm like dead tired, and I just now, straight up just now finished putting down the notes for this baby. So we'll see how well this will be. It's a bit of an out there topic. Friend suggested it to me because I didn't know what to do. I wanted to record a video, I just didn't know what to do, so I asked him, and he said this. As such, we're gonna give it my best shot. Sorry, I'm like super tired. I don't remember if I already said it, but I straight up finished like 2 minutes ago with this stupid notes for this thing. Also, today I had a weird nightmare. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I had a weird nightmare. You guys know the Baddington FNAF VHS tapes? And do you know the one in particular, the case of Morris? Or is it Mortis? Yeah, Morris. I watched that video like a month ago. Just today. Ugh. I had a nightmare that was like a beat for beat recreation of that dream. Let me tell you, when it got around to the stranger bit, like where it's repeated, my fucking awful brain made it like 4 times louder and last for 2.5 times as long. Like that fucked with me. Something fierce. It's like it was a good dream, but like damn. Okay, that was kind of fucked though. Anyway, is there anything else I need to say before we get into the video? Not really, outside of just the usual give me any video idea suggestions. Let me know you want to see all that sort of shit. Whatever I'm going to say is going to be in the comments, so you can go ahead and check, see ahead of time what I'm going to talk about, what you think. Hell, even if you just want to read those and then ignore whatever I say, sure, man, as long as it helps. Now what the fuck are we gonna do for these notes, eh? Which one should we start with? Eeny, meeny, miny. I like you. Let's start with what's coveted and why. Right? This falls in line with with the first three of like the various resources, but like, Jesus, how's the log yawn? This falls in line with the first three of like the various resources by like name and stuff. But I feel like this one's like the strongest for like an opener point to cover. So, what's coveted and why? And keep in mind when I talk during this, I'm going to be mostly analyzing from the perspective of your writing fantasy, because that's what I like reading and writing is fantasy. But something like cyberpunk or sci-fi definitely fits in line here. Hot damn, am I exhausted? Wow. Um, But whenever I go about this, I'm going to be thinking of, okay, how to analyze this from perspective of you're writing a fantasy story. What are you going to bring up, why, how, etc. Oh, I'm missing a screw in my desk. Fuck. I'll have to look for it later. Anyway. So what is coveted and why? So obviously we know what's going to be coveted in like terms of compare it to modern day, right? Like it's there in the parentheses, but I'll talk about it anyway. Food and water are obviously going to be some coveted things, right? Everybody needs to eat, everybody needs to drink. Air is going to be something that's coveted if you're doing sci-fi, like space travel in particular, given that, well, O2 is not guaranteed wherever you're going, or if you're running a ship or something, you're going to need to have a buffer supply of oxygen before your greenhouse or whatever the hell can start producing for you some breathable air and stuff, right? So, obviously, in those situations, the why is obvious. We covet those things because we need those to live. We need to drink water, we need to eat food, we need to breathe air, right? Now, it starts getting trickier in when you start mentioning other things. Like, you could say, oh, yeah, land is something that's coveted by higher ups, by nobility, by elite, or whatnot. But and then sure, you can get into managing that sort of resource. Hell, there's an entire novels and books and shit like that of being like a research management story. Like the main character, I see this in isekai sometimes, and rarely in lit RPG. Okay, rarely well done in lit RPG. I usually abandon it before it starts going. But like being given a tract of land and then wanting to build up your estate or your empire. I was about to say kind of like Darkest Dungeon, but not kind of like Darkest Dungeon, because in my mind I'm picturing it like you're expanding outwards, buying more arable land, turning it into farm plots, things like that. Whereas in Darkest Dungeon, you're just managing ugh, the yeah, managing the buildings that came part and parcel with the land or the hamlet or whatever. Not the point. Like for a resource management thing, you can definitely say what's coveted and why being land. Obviously, if you ugh, if you know your main character is say a noble, say a king, say just a landowner in general or whatever. But then if you start uh going into stuff like iron, right? Or into stuff like lumber and stone, that's less sure it still is, but that's less directly useful for those sorts of characters and instead would be something that's coveted by I don't want to say the plot, but that's basically what it is, coveted by the plot as set dressing, as world building, as like reasons to go, as reasons for story beats and whatnot to happen. If you see what I'm saying here, right? Like yeah. Ah. Well, food is something your characters are going to want and need, etc. You know, survival story, whatever. Stone or wood or lumber could be the background set dressing or motivation for the events of the plot to happen. Like, say there is a lumber shortage, right? And that's what's coveted. The reason why would be because obviously you need wood to run a city, right? You're gonna have to build new buildings, maintain old buildings. Maybe you're even a lumber town where your whole economy is reliant on chopping down, processing, and shipping this lumber. Then maybe thinking choose underscore stick one. If this town is a lumber town, why are they suddenly no longer able to produce lumber? That doesn't make sense. That's a good question, and you should start thinking like that. Why are they now unable to meet their demand for lumber? And this is how you start getting into the story beat or the hook or the opener or even just the next little bit of your story. Because now you have established the problem, you've established why it's a problem very simply, and then now we can explain the cause. Say in this circumstance it's a labor strike, or say in this circumstance it's beasts or other monsters infesting the woods. So right there I would give you two choices, or hell, even both, but probably just the one is better to focus on. Of either something solved diplomatically or something solved with blades and bludgeons. Right, if you see what I mean. And then, you know, whichever one your story is more suited for. Some stories are more suited for slick talking. I am trying to understand you and break it down, and you help me, I help you. Characters that are more that would have a labor plot or a labor strike plot be more directly interesting or be more directly how you say, be more interesting or like have a lot more to break down and utilize, etc., than a plot where you guys just go in, hack and slash some monsters. Not to, and do keep in mind when I say this, I'm not decrying stories where you go in and you hack and slash monsters, because everyone loves stories where you go in and you hack and slash monsters, right? It's cathartic, it's fun, it appeals to that raw primal part of our brain that fears monsters and wants to see them destroyed. But there are more ways to solve that. There are more like plots to put in that are just like punch the shit out of like a spined dog or whatever. But the point that quickly ran away from me is that why should you care about what's coveted and why in a setting? Well, because it is a great opener, not great opener. No, yeah, a great opener for a new plot, a new story beat, a way to drive your story forward. Because obviously, this is just one small piece of the pie, part of the puzzle, whatever the fuck you want to say. If you want to move up from there, you can either move laterally or move vertically. Say you move laterally, right? There was the labor shortage, not labor yet, but whatever. There was the labor strike issue for the the lumber yard. There was the collapse of the local bridge to ship the stone quarry's resources to the next place, and there was like a collapse in the mines or something, right? That's lateral movement. Three separate problems that all need to be solved in this one location. Or you can take that thing vertically, right? The one issue with the lumberyard vertically. Obviously, for the labor strike, it'll be like, okay, why are they striking? What is their goals? What are they doing this for? How can my story sink its teeth into this plot and really rend the wound further? Or even if you picked the monster choice, how can you sink your teeth into this and rend the wound further? Are monsters common? If not, then why are they here? If they're right, how often, not how many are in the area? How often are they appearing? Hostility. Follow the thread through. Where are they coming from? How do I stop this without just hiring guards? Because sure, hiring guards is the easy answer. It's still not an easy solution because you still need like actual people to come in here. Now they're on payroll. Now quotas are moving up. Now everyone's frustrated. Everyone's on edge. There's still a risk of harm and loss of life, etc. So instead of doing the patch job, why don't we do the full job? That sounds weird. And you go in and actually discover why the fuck this is happening, right? Because, like I said, even combat plots are still a lot to sink into there. But I am gonna come back to the labor issue. It's like follow the plot through. Who's the strike agitators? What are they trying to? Are they unionizing or are they just on strike? What are their goals? What's pushed them into this? Is it economic hardship? Is it lack of food? Is it shitty pay, awful hours, job site risk? All sorts of things like that. Is it an environmental movement? Have they all decided enough's enough? We need to change our methods because they could decide that, right? You want to make an environmental message? It's not hard. Well, I mean, it is hard. Everything's hard. Not me though. His what's the word I'm looking for? His hair, whack. His shoes, whack. The way he doesn't even like to smile, whack. Me, I'm tight as fuck. Um, love that video so much. Spread positivity and also hatred. But mostly hatred. But you see the point I'm telling you here of like, why should you care about what amounts to background plot details that nobody's gonna give a fuck about? Because it lets you, as the writer, shuffle your deck and pull out a new hand to see what you can work with in this new pot. Poker analogies. I play blackjack instead. Even though I don't gamble very much, or at all really. The only real gambling I do is that Discord integration app with poker. That one's fun. So, okay, so we've established what's coveted and why. Now let's break into the actual resources themselves. Now, this is going to be a bit more interesting than you may think, right? I've touched in it for the mundane, so I'm going to quickly wrap around and finish off my points there. When you're managing these resources, and obviously it depends on your main character. If your main character is someone in the leadership position, they're going to have to actively take a part in logistics and management in the story. Or if they are a low born or like a someone who doesn't have like anything to really manage with their hands, or not with their hands, with their signing off on shit or whatever, then instead this is going to be their backdrop that the character is actively taking part in. Sorry, I choked my water. Let me just drink more to fix that. Nice. So, for mundane resources, let's say salt, right? Salt mine. You're over by the. Now I have to look this up. Should have looked this up earlier. Is the where are salt mines located? Question mark. I don't usually found. Thank you. I don't actually literally mean where are they. So, how do salt deposits form is the better question I should ask. Uh, oh, where basins dry out, creating salt deposits. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, so they can be inland then, but I presume they're then mostly coastal? Or salt is pushed up through the cracks via tectonic plates and pressure. Okay. What the fuck was my point? I'm going to operate off the assumption that this is going to be a coastal location with a salt mine as a result of it. So we've established the backdrop, right? Coast, salt is right there, readily abundant. People are constantly going in, mining salt. This is the main economic force of this location. So you can. I'm gonna keep hedging my bets and like constantly flip flopping back and forth, and it's gonna piss me off, and it might piss you off now that I mentioned it. So if you're going at it from the perspective of, hello, it is I, it's me, the nobility of this location. I am here to manage the salt mines and its resources and like, distribution and all that wonderful shit. I say this in a mocking tone. I actually really like stories like this. Um, then you're gonna see it as another resource. They're gonna have to play with their influence. It's gonna be a bunch of like intricate court politics, which are always very fun. And this is like their main like gambit is talking about playing up, constantly boasting about the tons of salt mined and how that equates to how much they can export per month. Gross the gross profits as a result, how they can reinvest that, all sorts of shit like that. For your main character, they may be a salt miner, right? They may have a decrepit lungs, poor fucking miners, dude. Like black lung, but you're mining salt instead, so it's a more desiccated lung. Oh, that is some sharp pains in my lungs thinking about that. Oh, wow, that hurts. Um, but like I keep trying to say and then failing to say anyway, this builds their setting. This builds the backdrop. This frames their narrative because you understand, main character is here. These things are happening in this location. Here's how that can reflect on my guy based on everything around them. Whoa, who would have thought a little bit of, what the fuck is the words I'm looking for? Please excuse me, I am dead tired. Like, I have not been this exhausted in a little chunk of time. Like, like a few months. I'm going crazy. That thing's happening. I think I've mentioned it in a few videos. That thing's happening again where I can't sleep for more than like an hour or two without getting my sleep interrupted. And it's been happening for like a few weeks now, so I am actually, no irony, actually going fucking crazy. Um, unironically, wholeheartedly like losing my fucking mind. So I'm gonna lose my train of thought very often as a result. Anyway, what the fuck was I saying? Whatever. Let's make my final points really quickly. Uh, Based on what exact resource is being utilized, it is a great way to do world building, set dressing, and then frame your narrative around the central struggle based around these resources because resources are an easy way for your audience to understand here's what's going on in this location, here's how it's an obvious issue because this number or approximate estimation of what's being produced is now being halted or delayed or impeded for X reason. Therefore, it's obvious to me, the reader, with very little uh, story intensive context clues required. I understand how this is a problem because I understand what this is, I understand what this represents, and I understand how it can be used and how it can be interrupted. If you understand now what I am saying to you, or conversely, I understand what this is, so I understand how this is a boon to the main character, or I understand how this is burdening the main character to navigate, to utilize, to explore, to haggle, barter, whatever. The benefit of using these mundane items is that it's good for your audience and it's good for you, the author, who can now focus a bulk of your effort and time onto the things that require more careful crafting. Not to say this is like a bottle you crack open and do little tiny itty bitty edits on and it's good to go. But in comparison, what you need to end up fixing is a lot lesser than if you had done something completely off the walls and fucking bonkers, insane, or crazy. You got that? Good. I burped. I don't know if that picked up. I hope it did. That would have been cool. Now, let's talk about unique resources, such as, well, the tried and true magic, or in your case, whatever bullshit sci-fi unobtainium that is. I say it like as a negative thing. That's just my bias showing. I really don't mind. Or reagents for alchemy stuff, monster parts for alchemy or eating. You could not stop me from chewing on dragon bones if I had the chance. I like biting things. To still to date, it's an issue. Have bitten people. Definitely don't do that. Take it from me, a guy with teeth. Anyway, now it's not as though I'm going to tell you it's an awful fucking idea to always have unique resources as the main focus of your main driving plot because the audience will never understand it or anything, or you're gonna have so much effort to do. No, I'm not gonna say that at all, actually. What I am gonna say is you should consider, well, why are they coveted? How coveted are they? How are they produced? Something I see glossed over very often. Sure, monster parts, that's obvious. I understand how that's produced via, well, I guess fucking, technically. It's reproduction. Well, unless they reproduce asexually, right? Like budding. That's not fucking. Anyway, he ate them. Uh, for monster parts, yeah, sure, it's easy. We all know how that's produced. But for magic, as in like mana or like crystals or something, or like your equivalent resource generation is the mana generation, magic weave generation, or hell, even just energy generation again if you're in sci-fi settings with unobtainium powered reactors. Not my thing, but for those of you who like and appreciate that, I tip my hat to thee for liking what I cannot. And then for reagents and such, right? Establish how these are made so that way it's easier for the audience and it's easier for you because by making the hurdles, it's easier to not get caught up on them. And that's weird and sounds reductive, and I understand that. You may be thinking, she's underscore stick one. By making obstacles, how is it easier to now not get caught up on the obstacles? Well, it's not like the obstacles weren't there, right? It's just that you couldn't see them before Now they're spray painted so you can avoid them, if you get what I'm saying. By establishing early on how this is made, you will therefore not, or I guess you still can, it will just be easier to catch when, or if, you contradict yourself in the future, so you avoid any plot inconsistencies or idiot plots, or really just any writing problems in general by setting into stone right now how this works, right? And I don't mean in terms of you better break down how this works to one into a realistic manner so therefore I, the audience, can see this utilized in a scientific manner. No. Instead, I'm saying more along the lines of take this, give me a rough breakdown of what its functions are, so that way I can understand how it's going to be utilized in the plot moving forward. For the reagents, if you have an upper and lower limit on what alchemy is able to do, something something equivalent exchange, something something price of a human soul, I don't know, I've never seen the anime, or the abridged series, I apologize, except I don't because I'm not an anime fan, much at all. This has gotten me some grief, but over the years that grief has started waning. I blame recent anime for being shit. That being said, Yu Yu Hakusho was the shit, dude. That was fucking awesome. Loved it. Haven't seen it since I was like 6 though, so it might actually be bad. Who knows? Um, but given upper and lower limit of what your alchemy is able to do, for example, and then or like upper lower limit of what is able to be, how much is able to be produced and via what, so then I can understand. Sure, this is essentially just applied mundane resources, but it gets the added costs of being something that you can put in your writer's back pocket to expend like a consumable. So take your wonderful haste potion, for example. It's just I was like fucking it's just like heroin or something. Or amphetamines, I guess, meth. But take your wonderful and lovely haste potion, for example. This could be coveted not only because, hey, that's a resource that can be bought and sold, but also it can be produced domestically for domestic use for beasts of burden so they're able to carry more quicker and for longer. So in this case, it's not being produced to be sold, but instead being produced to be used as part of this shipping company's modus operandi. Operandi? Operandi? How do you pronounce that? You see what I mean? For monster parts, it could straight up just be like trophies and shit, right? That is just your typical vanity project. Or it could be like another. Oh, no, I guess, yeah. Could be like for vanity, and then starts being targeted by some sort of ecological mindset focused group who have a thing or two to say about a hunter or two, I was gonna say for some reason. Man, I miss Hunt Showdown when it was good. Rest in peace, Hunt Showdown. You died with the Tides trilogy, which were really good events, by the way. I really miss them. I fucking loved the Mariner Pact. Man, it was a little bullshit, but it was so fucking good. The rain was so good. I still think about the rain. Add more heavy rain to your stories. Not game heavy. The game heavy rain was shit. Add more heavy rain scenes beyond just them. This is a complete side tangent. Beyond them just being, oh, it's raining. No, actually have the mud be an issue. Actually have the line of sight obscurity be a problem. All you can hear is the pounding of water droplets against the ground, against the stone, against the leaves, against your own fucking skull. The visibility lit up by flashes of scant lightning in the distance, and you know in 1 to 3 seconds you're going to like be unable to hear a single thing. Putting your main character both on the back foot and giving them something to take advantage of. If you can't hear, they can't either. If you can't see, they can't either. If you can't stand, they can't either. You see what I'm trying to say? Complete side tangent, I understand. Let me get back to the topic at hand after having a sip of water. Okay, so he ate them. No, not yet. He didn't. But do you see what I mean when I say unique resources? Like it's basically just an applied resource or a mundane resource, right? But it definitely allows you to do a lot more with your stories. Same with sci-fi, right? For their whatever unobtainium or like incredibly tough alloy or hand energy that could be sought after for domestic use, especially because I fucking love the idea of space truckers. God, I fucking love logistics. But before we get into logistics, we're going to round out with the last resource topic, which is unique resources. Souls and other vague shit like that is what I have written down here verbatim. I don't know if I'll censor that because I think putting swears in your description is bad, but I don't know. We'll figure it out. Maybe I'll just keep it there. I don't really give a fuck. So remember when I said I'm not going to tell you don't do this at all because your audience will be completely confused and lost and will be basically absurd and meaningless and have no real basis on anything and just end up being tricky to implement. This is exactly that, in my opinion. I could only think of souls because that's like anything else would just be like, look, like I get a little bit of that, but I hope that the basis of what I'm about to say makes sense. I do not think having something like something intangible or vague or floaty or ill-defined like a soul be a resource is going to be good for your story. This is not something I believe. I do not believe this because, quite frankly, I don't know how to pull it off, and I've not seen it pulled off well. Because putting restrictions on it makes it no longer feel like a soul. Keeping it loose and vague makes it incompatible with storytelling, on the written form anyway. If it's a game or a TV show, or like a visual media, it's a bit easier. But like for this, which relies on the written word and the spoken word, I don't think really fits. And giving something too many applications makes it. I would not sell a Thneed for $20, but I would not sell a Thneed for $1,000. I do not know how to price a Thneed for all your Thneed needs. Made from the leaves of truffula trees and all that. I hope that made sense. I'm sure it didn't, but I hope it made sense. Basically, all of these intricate and weird and vague for my story for the sake of being vague for my story, resources tend to fucking suck and make your story suffer when you try to focus on them the same way you try to focus on them for other things. This is definitely relegated as very, very background material, or hell, even omitted entirely. Remember to kill your darlings. We hate darlings in this house. We will rip their heads in half vertically. But just know, like, sometimes if you struggle to slot things in, they weren't meant to be. Now let's talk about. We don't talk about Bruno. I'm a Hispanic person. I did not like Encanto. That movie fucking sucked. That family is mega toxic. Like, wow. Was that movie not good? And I did not give a flying fuck about it. I watched it. Alright, this is a movie I did watch. I did not enjoy it. I thought it sucked. Anyway, let's talk about trade routes. At this point, we're basically going to go like in a straight line then. We're going to go trade routes, then we're going to go defending them, then we're going to go monopoly, supply, demand, and then scarcity. We're going to cut, and then we're going to cap off with anything that comes to mind, but after that, we're going to be done with the video. Why am I giving you like a periodic report? Periodic paralysis, one of... God, I hate that fucking disease in Darkest Dungeon 2. I hate cholera more, though. Fucking a half-healing, days on round start, dude. Days on rounds. Sure, it's a chance, but you wouldn't believe it with how often it happens. Ugh. I want to bite something. I want a burger. Anyway, trade routes. So I fucking love figuring this shit out. I don't know why. So, trade routes. Distance, recipient, sender, cost, amount, resources. So, distance, obvious. How far is what's being moved? And it can get large and big. Consider the Silk Road in the real life. That thing was massive. Resources. How difficult is it to supply your caravans or your fleet of semi trucks delivering goods to and fro? Recipient, who is receiving? Shipper, who is shipping this? The resource itself, can it be kept? Is it perishable? Is it non-perishable? How heavy is it? Because that restricts how much you can move around. Uh, Price, right? Amount, all that shit. I adore things like that because not only do logistics visually show at a glance some good world building and establishing what players in this region are big players. If you see a bunch of lines going into someone and they can afford all that shit, then they're obviously very powerful to be able to A, afford, B, require this sort of like funneling of resources into this one location or to facilitate growth or expansion or the manufacturing of higher skilled, higher quality goods and things of that nature, right? It's really good for your world building. It's really good for your plots and settings because having this one location where everything convenes in would also then feasibly mean, okay, this is where thieves would accrue. This is where you go for work. This is where you go for this, that, and the other thing. This is potentially a cultural importance. Maybe this is where you could get ties, connections, allies, etc. By following the supply routes. Here's another thing to consider for your traders: land or sea, or hell, maybe even aerial, right? If you have, for some reason, airships in your stories or blimps or zeppelins. I don't get the appeal of blimps or zeppelins. I only barely get the appeal of airships, and even then. I'm definitely weird for that. I recognize this. And I hate you. No, I don't. Or at least I don't think I have a reason to. Maybe you'll prove me wrong. But establish, are these trade routes over land or sea? Because that does change a lot of things. By sea, obviously, you can stack fucking bitch and riches on top of one another because ships are obviously designed to move vast amounts of goods. But then you also have to staff them. You also have to have loading and offloading costs, which would take days on end. And then from there, the diffusion of the goods from the port into the various ends of the city. How is it managed? How is it regulated? Is it deregulated? Who oversees this, right? Who are the buyers? Who are the sellers? Who are the consumers? All that shit. I think it's very interesting. Do not ever feel pressure to actually go into the intricate nitty gritty details of all this stuff for your story, as many stories do not require, do not need, do not have room for this sort of thing. But could you at least consider it once or thrice? Or 7 times? Maybe just do it anyway? God, I fucking love supply routes. Am I getting that across well? Because I really sincerely mean that. I really wholeheartedly, sincerely mean that. Wow. And then, so are they oversea or are they over land? Distance. And then you can get into the political aspect of this, or geopolitical aspect of this. Who has supply routes with one another? Why? How close are they? How giving are they? Is this an equivalent trade? If so, why? Is this an unequivalent trade? If so, why? Who's throwing around their weight more? How much weight can they throw around? Why are they throwing around their weight to a lesser state in this nature instead of just subsuming them into the whole? Why are they not? Are there orbiting states that pay tithes and tributes? And such things like that? Are the tithes and tributes different from place to place, or are they all expected to contribute to like this set amount for ease of like digestion is the word I'm gonna use anyway for the main city that's being supplied, things like that. I fucking love thinking about this. Many of my stories don't even utilize this. I just fucking love thinking about this. Now, whoa, oh my cap. There we are. Like I said, this ends up really, really good and really, really useful for setting the stage for world building, for establishing things with really easy diegetic information to utilize. Really easy diegetic information to utilize in your story with little setup, with little else required outside of maybe like 5 paragraphs of words across 2 pages. If you see what I'm saying here. I hope you do, right? Establish those trade routes. Resources need to be moved, and it is an intensive process. A caravan master main character has a lot of setup and a lot of things they can go, and a lot of and easy reasons to do it. Obviously, they look out for their livelihood, they look out for their family, they look out for their employees, right? So where can they go? They can be basically a guard dedicated to protecting their goods and resources. They could be a slick charmer trying to get as much like renown as they can to instead get scrupulous, not unscrupulous, but scrupulous, like guard detail, right? They could be trying to constantly smooth talk, slick talk, weasel their way into better and better deals for themselves, regardless of caring of what the end result is for the other partner in the deal. You see what? Please God, see what I'm saying. Please God, have an interest in this. But there's a lot you can do in trade routes for your plot, for your main characters, for your world building, for your maps, for your supplemental material. Hell, for fun. Who the fuck is defending these? How and why? How important is this road? Which means how important are they going to funnel resources into protecting this? For example, the Khanate. They protected the hell. Well, maybe not the hell, but they protected the shit out of that Silk Road. It was policed, it was regulated, it was patrolled, it was watched, it was ensured everything ran smooth as it could because of its vital importance to just about every location within like East Asia or East Eurasia or whatever, right? Like it's hard to undersimplify or even oversimplify, but like what's the point I'm going for here is like right here it is. Silk Road might not even have been the major artery. Hell, I would argue as to say it was the fucking heart of various places of pre not prehistory of history. These trade routes are vital to the continued health of various cities and whatnot. The continued smooth, uninterrupted operation of these trade routes is, well, vital. As such, they would be very interested in keeping them defended, in keeping them running smoothly, in repairing them, in upgrading them, in hell, even finding shorter trade routes. Wouldn't they? So how do they defend it? What is the defense? It can even be something like not defensive, right? It can even just be they funnel constant resources into repairing this road. If it's like a contemporary story or a future story where it's like an established interstate highway. Keep this road going. Repair it. Add new lanes. Things like that. Truck stops constantly ensured they're stocked with gasoline and like have regulated prices and things of that nature. Hmm? But for something like fantasy, but for something more historical, more Iron Age, more Sword and Board, protecting them from dragons, protecting them from other various monsters, bandit clans, hell even. How do these vital trade routes operate during occupation by a foreign body or during armed conflict in the form of a war? Can they still operate? If they can, is it reduced? How is this reduced operative effectiveness? Well, affecting both parties, right? And then this is even a good excuse to get into like fun type of world building stuff where you detail weaponry, where you detail armor, where you detail tactics, where you detail soldiers and platoons and detachments and shit like that, right? This is like your nice excuse to bring a mercenary group into your story and establish how they work in fun scenes where they're going in and they're taking out bandits, organized or otherwise. This is your excuse to show off your really, really, really super cool and not at all lame Army Fatigues design. All sorts of beautiful, fucking beautiful shit like that. Do you agree? I hope so. I hope everything I say. I hope you agree with everything I say. Don't think critically. Do as what I tell you to do. 1984 reference here. The book is like just fine. It's not that great. I'd recommend it as a read, but I preferred the appendix to the bulk of the story. Somehow not an insult. That appendix is great. Um, so there's little else I could say for defensive trade routes outside of also think about defense in terms of caravanserai, right? Come here, rest houses. Come here. Buy a hearty, filling enough, and moderately cheap meal. Buy beds, buy stable space, buy feed for your horses, buy the ability to rest your beasts of burden, and then in the morning you leave, right? The hospitality business was an incredibly vital part of trade routes. Hell, it still is. What were like towns in the Wild West would pop up alongside bull run locations, pop-up towns, and chuck wagons. Dude, chuck wagons are so cool. Look up. Oh my God, what's his fucking name? He made a cool video. Chuck wagons. Cowboy Kent Rollins. He made a great video on them. Uh, did that is an AI generated image. Did Tasting History with Max Miller make a video on a chuck wagon? Tasting History with Max Miller. Chuck wagon. He did. What did the video is called "What Did Cowboys Eat on the Open Range" by Tasting History with Max Miller. Those are two videos you should watch, based around this idea of like how do they keep their boys supplied? Hmm? Because that's very important. Let me get some more water. Where is my? There it is. Let me drink some chunk of water. Nice. Okay, so what was it? Where's my train of thought? I'm losing it because I'm gonna be real. I clicked on the video and started watching and realized, oh shit, I'm recording a video. um, right, monopolies, supply, demand, all that stuff. So, an important part of the trade routes, how are they able to be a player at all in the incredibly cutthroat business of exportation? Right? Like, this is the place that you cannot fuck up and show weakness in. Business is the way to stay the bloody hand of tyrants and all that, except don't fucking work, not do it. So, monopolies. Supply and demand. Now, I'm no economist. I fucking hated my I liked my economy teacher. He was a cool guy. I cried in his class. Well, I cried in everyone's class, so that's nothing special. Um, I cried in his class. He was a cool guy. He was a cool guy. Just thought about him again. Like he was, yeah, like he did his best to make those classes fun. He was also my sociology teacher. We got to watch shows in this thing because it was about like the different cliques and freaks and geeks. The one season show. It was actually he actually made some pretty good ways to tie it back to the ideas within sociology. Um, but monopoly, supply, demand, all that stuff. Who is the kingpin of this shit? How is them being the benchmark, being the gold standard, being the guy affect everyone else who wants to muscle into the supply trade, right? What is their supply? How do they keep their supply going? Do they have a near or a seemingly inexhaustible fleet of horses to send out? Do they have innumerable quarries and mines? Do they have an endless vert endless golden fields of wheat that they are able to constantly shift this around, and how is nobody on their ass about this? Obviously, this is like a little too close to being real that some people would prefer for their stories, but I like it when my stories reflect a little bit of the modern, now don't I? And then you can get into what happens because we have the supply, we have the demand. Suddenly, supply is cut off. Demand is not. Hell, demand rises. This was a vital good. What now? How does your plot react? How do your characters react? What's next? Scarcity. For my raw, bare thoughts on scarcity, interestingly enough, I recommend my video on food as I talk about famine in that and how it can be a wonderful tool for your plots, for your stories, for moving things forward, for your main characters, for establishing character growth, development, and killing characters you don't like. I didn't mention that, but I did. Well, I definitely like overstate it right now. But the point is, whatever I talk about there for starvation is what I can talk about here for scarcity. I will, however, give you a rapid fire of a little bit of things. The biggest problems are always, in my opinion, when shit is no longer accessible. Food is obvious, but stop and consider, like I said, lumber. Suddenly, anything that breaks, any buildings that break, are incredibly difficult, incredibly pricey, labor intensive to fix. I mentioned that mine collapse. Who's going to put up new supports with what wood? How much is left in the city's coffers? Because they need this problem fixed because that is their wealth extractor. What happens when that runs out? People got to be let go. We now have rising discontent. Hope is falling. Frostpunk terminology. Tension is rising. This is going to lead to riots. This is going to lead to revolts. This is going to lead to plot. I'm sure you see what I'm going with this. Again, I recognize this is a bit too, like, real for some people and their tastes, but me, personally, well, I just got done gushing over how much I fucking love trade routes. I feel like I would love Paradox map games. Thankfully, I've never played one because I know it would suck me right the fuck in. But I'm sure you understand the point I'm making here, and I hope you get it, and I hope you utilize it to its fullest, because there's a lot to do here. Thank you kindly for watching. I don't know what else to do outside of repping my food video, mostly because I'm hungry, but also because that does go hand in hand with resource management. I talk about, like, the various ways food can be used, like, the very, like, preservation, all that sort of shit. Please watch it, is what I'm saying. Um, Let me know if this video was useful at all. Let me know if this was any good. Let me know any fucking ideas. I'm running out of ideas. Let me know what you want to see for Trans Crusade, all sorts of shit like that. I'm wrapping this up because I want to go grab something from my fucking pantry and eat it. Thank you for watching. Have a good. I'm recording this at night. I'm gonna go eat and probably go to bed. Um, Hope it was a good video. Hope you got something out of it. Let me know what you thought. All that shit. See y'all freaks later.